Hi there guys, Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice, and let's jump into today's video where we're going to be creating some gift tags. So I took a 9 by 12 piece of cold pressed watercolor paper and cut a strip off of it that was 2.5 inches wide. I took that strip and cut it into pieces that were 3.5 inches long in order to create the tags. Cut a corner off, took that corner and used it as a template to cut the corner from the other tags in order to make sure that they were all uniform and even. At that point, I took a hole puncher and just punched a hole in the top for whatever ribbon or twine or twill or string that you may want to insert and use on your tags. It's time to jump into painting the center picture for both of the tags we're doing today. The first one is going to be a string of Christmas lights. Really enjoyed this. Had fun doing these projects, guys. So I'm using 3 colors here, and these 3 colors are from the Camel watercolor set. And I've been using this set for a couple of months, and I was going to do a review, and then I received a additional set that had more colors in it. So I did want to test those colors out before I offered my final opinion. And this is the last field test for those before the review comes up. Now here we're using sap green, cerulean blue, gamboge. The gray tone is going to be mixed from the burnt sienna and cerulean, and the socket part for the bulbs are done with yellow ochre and burnt sienna for the shadowing. Now you're going to see that I'm doing tone on tone painting here because it's a great way to achieve really quick results. So I went with really watery washes of the color to color the bulb. Then we went in with stronger color from the same ones, or should I say stronger or more concentrated color directly from the pan of the same colors, in order to add in the shadow. I'm going to use the burnt sienna to do the shadowing and the depth for the socket, or the little screw part for each bulb. It's going to help give it a little roundness. Just using it to divide each of the ribs from the socket and to shade in some shadow on the side to give that socket roundness. I did some glazing, as I tend to do with most of my paintings, and I did notice that there was a bit of lifting with the glazing, and I'm not sure. Well, I think it's probably this paper, because I don't recall having that issue with these paints on any other paper. I think it's just this particular cellulose paper that kind of lended to lifting with these paints. So I am going to go back in with another concentration of those colors, heavier of course, in order to add my shadowing back into the bulbs, because I really lost it with the glazing. So here we are just continuing to add in depth, make sure that things are looking round and grounded. And after I finish with that, I'm going to take the colors that I've used and splash them into the background of the tag, being sure to use a paper towel to wipe it off of the actual painting itself, because I didn't want it to get too lost. Moving on to the second tag, which again, I was really having fun here at this point. I'm gonna wet the background and use sap green in a really heavy wash. I really saturated it, mainly because I was keeping in mind that this paint set, unlike some of the other ones I've used lately, has a little bit more of a color shift when it goes from wet to dry. So I wanted to make sure that I did put enough color in the background so when it dried, it would still be pretty bright and saturated, So once I get that done and I give the background time to dry, I'm then going to go in and do my first layer for the ribbon as well as the actual Christmas tree ornament itself. We're using crimson on the ribbon, and we're going to use gamboge on the ornament. I noticed as I was doing the ribbon that I missed a little bit of the background. So, I just jumped in with some of that sap green in order to fill it in, and made sure to fade it out, because I didn't want to have any back runs in my background. So don't let anyone ever tell you that you cannot fix watercolor mistakes. You can. They're called happy accidents, and we go with them and work them into the painting. So here I'm doing that first glaze of the gamboge on the Christmas tree ornament itself. Just going to get it pretty even and uniform. Remember that if you want to do a flat wash, You want to keep that bead of paint on the end and wet all the way down until you're done coloring whatever section you're doing. That way you can get a pretty uniform wash. I'm going to go back in with a heavier concentration of that color in order to add the shadows. And I noticed they got a little wonky and a little crazy, the shadowing part. So I did go back and glaze another really watery layer of gamboge on top of that ornament and kind of tried to soften the hardness that those lines had created when I tried to shadow the bulb itself. I'm going to go ahead and shadow the ribbon, and I'm also going to mix a little gray in order to do the little metal part that's on the top of the ornament that actually has the wire attached. So yeah, got all of that done. It came out really nicely. I love the way it was looking, and I did know that I was going to add more depth with a fine line marker, so I wasn't really worried. Here I'm throwing in the pine branches or the pine needles that the ornament will be hanging from, and I just did that with sap green, and I shadowed it by adding a little of the cerulean blue that I was using in order to darken the tone of that sap green and go in and throw in some shadows. So afterwards, I moved on to my fine lining. Here is where you're adding a little bit more depth and definition to the Christmas tree ornament. I actually like the way this one came out. I really do. I decided not to do any black on the stringer of lights. I just used some colored fine line markers in order to add definition there. Then I use a terracotta Prismacolor pencil in order to add a little bit more definition to the socket part, give it a little bit more roundness, fullness. Afterwards, I grabbed my white gel pen, so I'm gonna go in and throw in some highlights, give it a little glistening and shimmer where lights may hit it. Well guys, I hope you like what you saw. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you did. Go ahead and subscribe, comment, let me know what you thought. Share the video because sharing is caring. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Don't forget to join the group and just keep painting.